Hello all. When this comes out, it'll be the Memorial Day for St. Catherine of Siena, so I just want to talk about her a little bit. The 14th century in Europe, it was a very dark time. There's a lot of wars, violence. The church was not doing so great. The plague was sprouting up here and there, and smallpox and other diseases. So there's a lot of chaos. Yet despite all that, even with the scandals in the church, there's still a lot of great prayers, great mystics that were, even in the midst of those troubling times, was able to talk to God. And so St. Catherine of Siena is one of those, the most famous one of those. She came from a large Catholic family, and she had mystical experiences pretty early in life, and she had some health problems and stuff, so she wasn't able to become a full-fledged Dominican sister, but she was a member of the lay, the Third Order Dominican. So she's a lay member affiliated with the local Dominican order. So she engaged in various sorts of charity, and she would also counsel people. And that's when people started realizing she had this unnatural amount of wisdom for someone her age and with her education. And that's because the wisdom she shared with people was the wisdom she was learning in prayer, through communing with the Lord, that supernatural wisdom that's given sometimes to the little ones who are faithful to our Lord. So soon people came to her, seeking counsel, asking her about how to solve their problems, asking her to help resolve conflicts. And then that eventually even got to the point of, diplomatic questions and the papacy's problems. So paradoxically, this restrained life of prayer, this private life of prayer that she practiced for so many years, ultimately plunged her into the wider world, into the affairs of the society of her day. The events going on in the church, the souls of people way beyond her parents' house. And so there are, today there's over 400 letters of hers that she wrote to different people at all different levels of society. And people came to hear St. Catherine of Siena, and we listen to her voice still, because in an age of deception, she spoke the truth clearly. In the midst of scandal, especially within the church, she was calling not for abolishment of the church, but for reform of the bride of Christ. In the midst of widespread indifference, she called for renewed fidelity to Jesus Christ our Lord. So again, paradoxically, St. Catherine's intense life of prayer did not make her standoffish or pumped up with pride or vainglorious in any way, but rather it taught her to help people in the real world, to bring her wisdom to them, to bring her faith to them in their troubles. And amazingly, for as many churches and shrines and how well known she is throughout the church, she only lived to be 33. And so sometimes we talk about how some lights burn so brightly and intensely they just burn themselves out more quickly. But in those short years, how much did her faith, her hope, her communion with God, how much light she brought to the darkness of her error. And so that's why we continue to invoke her as a great patron, as a great spiritual writer, as a great intercessor for us, because her shining example of light burned not only in her own time, but also needs to burn in our time as well. Thank you, and God bless.